All right, I'm going to finally answer the question. Do you need to spend $1,200 on a top tier Bambu X1C carbon, or can you get the exact same thing for under $300 with the Elegoo Centauri Carbon? Short answer, no. Longer answer, maybe. Let's jump into it. Let's do a walk around of the two printers, all right? So the question is, can you get what you need for $300, or do you really need to spend $1,200 with the AMS and the whole 9 yards on the X1 Carbon? And that's definitely what the Centauri Carbon, I mean, it's in the name. And you can see it printing here. So the question is it worth it? Well, as far as size, they're almost exactly the same. You're looking at a build plate of 256 by 256. You got the same build plate over here, essentially the same, plates on them. This is the Bambu one. The texture on that is nearly identical. The heads even look similar. It's clearly a clone of the Bambu. Now, they don't do everything exactly the same. On the Centauri, the panels are screwed on from the outside, which honestly I prefer over the monolithic Bambu Lab. Because with this, if I want to take a panel off, I can take a panel off. The door, it definitely wins on the door. This handle is so much better. And it opens wider. There's how wide it opens. On the Bambu Lab, you have this little thing, you gotta get your finger in there, and it only opens that wide. Not much difference, but the Elegoo has, I prefer the door on the Elegoo. I've heard of them breaking people, but I think this could break as well. As far as the screen, there's the screen on this. It's a responsive color screen. Not much you could say about it. The Bambu, again, color, responsive, a little bit faster, a little bit nicer, but nothing to write home about other than the positioning. I hate having this down here, whereas this is up here, all right? Bambu Lab's got its SD card right there. This one, I don't think it's got an SD card. It does have a USB right in the front though. That's kind of nice. I've printed risers on both of these. I'm printing PETG carbon fiber right now out of this box here. There is a mod to take this and bring it out about an inch to make it line up better. I might do that in the future. Of course, the old poop basket, we built that and got that in place just to make life easier. The lighting, well, as you see, it's bright daylight here, so the lighting's okay. It could be brighter. Looking inside the Bambu, the glass just isn't as dark. That's one thing where the Bambu wins. And the lighter gray makes it easier to see inside, even though the light in here sucks as well. All right, you saw the two printers. Now, a lot of people are pissed at Bambu because they've locked it down in a very Apple-esque kind of situation. And they said they were doing it for security reasons, and people were like, no, you're doing it so you can force us to buy your blah, blah. And then they're like, here's all the tools so you can unlock it locally, just not on the web, so you can't get hacked, so you can't get mad at us for letting it get hacked. Then people still butthurt about it. I mean, I used to be a pretty nerdy kind of guy when it came to computers. I've built networks all over the Caribbean, the United States, and Canada, all right? I'm about as technical as they come, and even I have finally switched over to pretty much Mac on everything. I run Mac on my desktop. I have iPhones. It's just, if you don't want to deal with the tech and you just want to use the tech, it's easy. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. We're looking at almost, I would say, I don't even know if I'd say PC, almost a Linux versus Mac kind of comparison. Now, what about print quality? Well, of course, we got to look then at the old, the benchies, the Bodies, or whatever you want to call this. Anyway, can you tell which one is from which? I'm guessing that you can't. I mean, if I didn't know and I picked it up and looked at it, I would be hard pressed to be like, oh, that one's from this, that one's from this. The reality is, this is the X1C. I actually got right down the bottom, and this one's from the Elegoo, and they look within spitting distance of each other. If I got out and I put my glasses on, I looked real close. Yeah, this is not quite as good as this, but it gets really close. All right, the print quality that you can get out of the Elegoo is within a margin of error, if you would, of the X1C. It's fantastic. Now, the question is, does it have the same kind of build quality and long-term reliability? Now, I wouldn't say yes. It definitely, when you look at it, it looks a little bit more slapped together. The board in it is a little more off-the-shelf kind of hacked kind of piece. In fact, Elegoo got their hands smacked because it turns out they were using a piece of software on their board that they weren't supposed to. It's part of the open source community. But it turns out that they licensed or they hired another company to write that software. That company embedded it. And so they're under a non-disclosure, and now they're trying to release what they can. It's one of these, and they're not the first, and they're not the only one who've done this kind of stuff, all right? There's nothing new. But let's get back to print quality. I had a couple of the other things that I did here. First thing I printed was this, which was, not the first thing, actually, I take that back. But I decided to do, carbon fiber because it's in the name. So this was just a 20 by 20 cube of carbon, and it came out and measured pretty much 20 by 20. I was right out of the box, no muss, no fuss. I went and I looked at some settings, copied those settings over, and I played some dice with this thing if I wanted. Some of the other stuff we did, and these were trays. I was in the development phase working on some trays for picks, the tools, and we did this kind of style, and then we did this kind of style. And I will say this, the print quality on these is phenomenal. It's a beautiful looking product. It does not look, when you look at this, no one glances at this and goes, oh, that came off a 3D printer. When you pick it up, it doesn't feel like it came off a 3D printer. The quality on these things is just great. I'm astounded how good it is. Look, you can even slide these back and forth. I didn't even design it that way. It just so happened. Who knew? It's a feature. It's been documented. Remember, it's not a bug. Once you document it, it's a feature. Anyway, here's another one I printed. And this is in just standard PLA, I think. This is PLA. And it's a fine system. We printed a couple battery holders in PLA just to try them out. They work just fine. In fact, I haven't had a failed print yet on the Elegoo, and I have had a few failed prints on the Bambu. I've been running the Bambu a lot more. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, what about the slicer? I like this slicer better. You have to use the Bambu slicer. Here's the deal. And for those of you who don't know, slicers are the software you use. You create the models or you download the models, and you take them and you put it in a slicer. And the slicer literally does what the name says. It slices it into layers and creates the path that the machine uses. It's called G-code. Creates the G-code the machine uses to print the model. And slicers are a very important tool. They're all free. You usually download them, stuff like that. But here's the deal. People are like, well, the Elegoo slicer is better or the Orca slicer is better. You're talking Chevy versus Buick versus Pontiac versus Saturn versus GMC. It's all the same deal, guys. Slicer, the original one called Slicer, was then forked by Prusa, that then came down to Bambu, then came down to, I don't know if it was Orca, and then they're all derivatives from the same. I mean, take a look at it. All right, so let's take a look at the two different slicers. We got the Bambu slicer on the right. We have the Elegoo slicer on the left. I've got the same models as the models currently getting printed that I already showed you, pulled up here. And, as I said, they're derivatives from the same branch. So it's not like there's a huge difference. They all have the same kind of control features, the same kind of look and feel. If anything, I will say I prefer Bamboo Slicer because of the color palette. It's just the way it's laid out. It's bright. It's more clickable, I find. Whereas this is more text heavy. This has shows me everything right up here. I can sync with the AMS there, so that's a big issue for me. I use this one when I'm using the Elegoo. In fact, if I could, I would use the Bamboo. Now here's something funny. If I come over here and I go, hey, I want to choose a new printer, and I'm going to create a new printer, and I can select the vendor. I can come through, look at all these vendors. We got everything. There's tons and tons of different vendors and different printers that I can control with the slicer. If I come over here, and they've had plenty of time to update this, all right, and I want to add a new printer, I don't have to add just Bamboo. And you see, we skipped right from C to F. There's no Elegoo. They clearly are having an issue with the Centauri Carbon here. They don't like it. Now, as far as monitoring the job, if we come over here, we go to the device, I can scroll down here. It's at 94%. It's just finishing up the job. And I can see my actual, printer go to town. If I come over here and I go to the device, I come over here, I have to hit load, and it will load it, and then I can see it. The difference is this is on my local area network. This goes through the cloud. I can view this anywhere with my app, and I do all the time. All the time I use my app to check it and see how my print's going. All right, so that, and it also, of course, gives me, access over here to the AMS, so I can see exactly what's going on with the AMS, and I have all my controls right there. Again, there's a lot of that still built into the Elegoo. And you get your video, you can download your videos here. With this one, if I want my videos, I can go over here to go storage, and it'll take a minute, because again, it's going all through the web. And you're like, well, I prefer it if it was not through the web. Well, that's fine. Then don't do that, but it gives you that ability to view it anywhere. And I do. It's kind of like with my smoker. I thought the whole thing about accessing the temp through the app, me holding my imaginary cell phone. There we go. Now I actually have a cell phone. So me holding the app or the web, looking at it through my cell phone and being like, I don't need to do that. Yeah, I do it all the time. I do. Once you have it, it's like cruise control. You're like, I don't need cruise control. Then you get a car with cruise control. You're like, I can't live without cruise control. It's one of those quality of life upgrades that is hard to go back once you have heated seats. Once you have, all those features, it sucks to go back and not have them. All right. Now let's talk about, let's look at pricing and such. All right, we're on Elegoo's website, and this is the Centauri Carbon. It's currently on sale for $300. I'll put links to everything down below. It's hard, really hard, not to like this thing at this price point. This is a real gem of a printer for $300. I just can't believe what you can do with this thing, because it's not just a good printer. It's not just a 3D printer, a good printer, and a closed printer. It's all of that, plus it does engineering grade filament, and it does it well. It does not have the hand holding you get from the Bambu Lab, all right? Which is nice, because Bambu Lab, you take a filament, you put it in, and you put it in the AMS, and it reads, there's little riffid tags in it, and it reads it, and it automatically puts it into the slicer, and it knows what filaments you have. In fact, I've got it set up right now so that I'm printing a lot of stuff that has black in it. So I have 2 black spools and then 2 different color spools. So when I run out of black, it just switches to the next filament. I don't have to do anything. Then I come in, I see, one of the filaments is gone. I put that one in, load it with black. It just keeps going. Again, I don't really have to do anything, and it automatically recognizes when I put it in. And I like also the AMS because it's fully enclosed, which means I can put desiccant and stuff in there. If you look closely, you notice I had the Sunlu heater on top because I'm cheating. Because a lot of these filaments need to be dried. A lot of them need to be basically baked and then kept dry. All right, carbon fiber is one of these big ones. All right, so that's why you saw on the side of the Elegoo, I've got that little dryer box. In fact, it's this one right here. It's the Creality. It's not a high-end one, but it acts as an enclosed printer. It manages that, keeps the humidity down. It won't get hot enough, I think, to process. It only goes up to 60 C, if I'm not mistaken. It won't bake all of them. Like the really high-end engineering thing has to go up to like 80 C and stuff like that. For that, I use an air fryer on dehydrate mode. But once it gets there, it's easy to manage it. And I just throw it in that box. It keeps it enclosed, keeps all the moisture out. Where I have my printer set up, if you can see right behind me, that's my shop door. That's my main entrance, all right? So fully enclosed is a big deal for me because every time I walk in and out, that door opens. Come winter, mid-February, that's going to be a direct channel to the North Pole, all right? It's going to be cold. I'm up here in Montana at about 4,700 feet, and it's going to be cold. And we get the wind. We get all the wind. They pipe it straight in out of the Bering Sea. It's terrible. Anyway, point is that I need to have fully enclosed things to protect it against that temperature change. When I open the door, I get inside before I can close the door again. That's why it's important to me. It may not be important to you. All right? Anyway, that's on sale right now for $40. I don't like the spool on the side. I don't like the spools being exposed unless you're doing high volume printing, just leaving your spools out. I mean, for like PLA and stuff like that, it's not too bad. For a lot of the stuff that I deal with, it's not great. But it does have a lot of great features. This thing's got good venting. It's got carbon filters. Although I would recommend doing an upgrade, and there's tons and tons of upgrade. That's a little poop chute. Every time it has to clean the little nozzle or you switch colors, it ejects stuff out of there. Hence the little thing I put on the side. There's your build volume, 256 by 256 by 256. This is just your basic Core XY, Z basically. 3D printer. It does everything it's supposed to do. And I think that it does it well. Some of the things that aren't great, you'll hear people complain about the tube here that comes in that feeds it. It because of the design and how tight it is up there, that tube has to make a really sharp angle and can be an issue. So that riser that you saw that I put on there, that riser gives that tube, instead of forcing the tube basically into a right angle, it gives it a more of an arc and gives it some room to breathe. So it alleviates that problem, and it makes it easier to manage the glass on top. When you print PLA, you have to crack the glass a little bit. There's different ones where you want to move the glass and allow it to breathe. There's also access to the print head and stuff like that. That little print head thing, or that riser I put on there, just makes life easier all the way around, okay? And then, I said the door, I like the door and the handle, especially on the Elegoo better. Honestly, I have to say, I probably like the look of the Elegoo better. I think it looks more sleek and techy. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's a purely subjective. You can print all sorts of stuff. I would not recommend the adjustable wrenches. But I guess these are tools and stuff you can print for use with the printer. A bunch of stuff's embedded in it. It comes with a nice little toolkit, some stuff. There's some maintenance things you have to lube and grease certain parts every so often. What's not to like about it? All right. Well, you know what? Before we cover that, let's talk about the other stuff that's out there. Bambu Lab. All right. Let's take a look at their printers. All right. So the X1C that I showed you, it's $800. All right. Now, of course, as demoed, it's $1,249, but that's with the basic AMS. That's this thing up here. If you want the brand new, advanced, super cool AMS with the AMS hub, this allows you to attach 4 AMSs together. Okay, remember, AMS is the thing that holds the 4 color spools. You can connect 4 of those to one machine through that hub. That's 16 different colors or types of filament, or you could get like a cheap support filament so that you're not wasting your good filament on supports. It's something to think about, all right? In fact, look at this. The new version, the AMS2 Pro or whatever it is currently on sale, making it cheaper than the base combo. So basically, $1,119 will get you the top of the line engineering in that 256 by 256 by 256 form factor. Now, they do have bigger 3D printers. I'm not going to talk about the H2 line right now, which is a whole nother conversation. Then we have the Bambu Lab P1S, which is kind of a closer approximation, if you would, although this does not come ready to print carbon fiber out of the box. You'd have to buy the carbon fiber hot end for it, or the nozzle and all that kind of stuff, which is not a big deal. It's really not a big deal. This is basically, then we got also their little one, which I kind of showed on the channel they sent over. Full disclosure, I should point out, Bambu Lab and Elegoo did send both of these printers to me. So, you know, if you say I'm biased, I guess I'm biased towards both. Anyway, they sent also the Bambu Lab A1. Now, I ended up giving that to the daughter of a friend who just got a scholarship to college. She's doing some engineering stuff, so she was like, oh, I want to get a 3D printer. I'm like, guess what? I will say this. At $350, this is a gem of a 3D printer. I know I said gem before. And you can get an AMS for it, but it's the AMS Lite where everything's exposed. And I'm not a fan of that because, again, you're taking your filament, that many of the filaments, especially the filaments I use, are really moisture sensitive, and now you're leaving them outside. Now, if you're printing quickly with this, you're like, I'm going to use up all 4 of these spools in a week, okay, you'll probably be fine. But for me, I'd rather have it in an enclosed, controlled environment. I'm a control freak when it comes to this stuff. I always have been. In fact, the first 3D printer, I built 3D printers. All right, I bought kits and I did stuff back in the day when the whole 3D printer craze just was getting started, when it was just known among geek culture in the Bay Area. We were doing that kind of stuff. But then I found a company that had made a fully enclosed 3D printer. This is called the Da Vinci for XYZ or something like that. This was a cool printer back in the day. You know, old guys like, you don't understand, that was cool when I was a kid. It was a fully enclosed 3D printer, which back then people didn't seem to take seriously for some reason, and it is important. And I got, anyway, there's a whole other story about how I got it, and not like I paid full retail. We don't do that here. Point is, fully enclosed is important to me. And as I said, like, I just bought another 3D printer so I can have 3. And here's why. The Elegoo, for me, is going to become my dedicated engineering level 3D printer. It's just perfect and easy. And when I'm doing stuff like that, I'm usually only doing one filament. They do say there will be an AMS coming out. All right. So at some point, hopefully an AMS will come out. And in that case, I'll probably get it and I'll use, I'll put engineering filaments, 3 different engineering filaments in it, and then one cheap support throwaway filament in the other one. And that'll be my dedicated engineering parts 3D printer. The new printer that I'm getting is going to become my miscellaneous print everything kind of printer. All the basic stuff that doesn't require engineering or anything fancy, just want to print stuff out, print stuff out, print stuff out. The X1C is going to become my, my development printer. All right. It's the one where I can do high-end stuff. I can do fully enclosed. I can have fully controlled. I can do all this kind of fancy stuff. So when I spent my own money, I got 2 free printers. I spent my own money. What did I buy? I'll show you what I bought, because it wasn't either of these. It was the Bambu Lab P1S, a printer that's been out for a good long time, that a lot of people are going to say, you wasted your money. Why would you buy that? In fact, I even bought the one with the Advanced Pro 2 AMS on it. And here's why. Because printers are tools. Not everything needs a hammer. Not everything needs a tiny little screwdriver, all right? If I'm driving nails, that screwdriver is going to suck, all right? And if I'm trying to drive a screw, that hammer's going to be a real pain. I'm not saying you can't do it, probably saying you shouldn't, all right? So for me, my printers are about 20 feet from that door, and it's going to open all winter long. So I want fully enclosed. I was fully prepared to buy the Bambu Lab A1. Just a great, fast little printer that's super simple and just gets the job done. But fully enclosed, here's what happens. If you open up one of those printers and you blow cold air in it while it's printing, and then you close the door, you will see when the printer gets finished, there'll be what's called layer lines. You'll see a stripe straight across your product because that layer cooled faster than the rest. So it is an issue. Controlling your environment when you're printing with hot plastic is important. Who knew? All right. So again, why I went with this, because I don't need the X1C level, engineering level filament all the time. And I have two printers that can already do that. So I needed basically a crescent wrench. All right. I've got, the detail tools. I've got the precision tools. I needed just the generic does it all kind of tool. And that's what this was. Now, why did I get the AMS Pro when I already have the AMS? Because I'm going to take the AMS that I have on my X1C with the Sunlu mod and move it over to this, and then this AMS is going to go with the X1C. So I'll have the top of the line X1C, I'll have my middle child, and then I'll have my dedicated, engineering 3D printer. Now, should you buy the Elegoo? Well, you have to make that decision for yourself. Are you going to have multiple printers? Do you need to print multicolor? If you need to print multicolor, you could buy it. I mean, it's $300, and you could wait and hope they come out with an AMS and hope it works, and a lot of hope going on. If you just want to do stuff around the shop, it is kind of a pain to swap out filaments, all right? It's not that hard, okay? What you do is you hit remove filament, you wait, I think it's like 3 minutes while it heats up the hot end and pushes the filament out and cleans out what's in it. And then you reel back the filament, you take it off the spool, you put the new one on, you feed it through the line, bump, 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 bump. You feel it hit the print head, then you go load, and then you do that procedure 1 or 2 times until you can see filament coming out. You're like, all right, all good, and you're moved on, all right? If you're printing multicolor and having to swap back and forth like 10 times during a print, pain in the backside. If you're like, this print's going to be this color and this print's going to be this color, and you're changing like once every other, it's perfectly manageable. All right. That's not a big deal. I think that for a lot of people, the Elegoo is going to be more than enough. I think it's a well-built, if not as built as well as the Bambu, but it's $300. I could literally buy 2 of these for the price of one of the Bambus without the EMS. And that's a lot of printing power. It really is. I could put different colors in each one. It's hard not to recommend it because what it's capable of at $300. I haven't had any problems with it. I wish I could say this is an issue. I told you all the things that I don't like about it, but they're nitpicky kind of thing. The feeder tube, we'll just print the riser and then you're good. The thing on the side, $40, and I got myself a little AMS dryer, dustkin kind of thing, and I'm good. There's always ways to make things better, all right? But for $300, it's a really good printer. And I could go on and on about this conversation for some time. Point is, come back on Friday, because we got big news. Anyway, links to everything down below. If you got any questions or comments, put them down there. I try to respond to everyone. That's all we got for you today. You all take care. God bless. And as always, shine on.